So did you ever forget you owned something and then you put it on and had a holy crap moment? I did. Stick around, we'll go through it together. Like I said earlier in the intro to this video, I was flipping through my record collection last Friday. This was a day after I think I'd done the Crosby, Stills and Nash debut 45 RPM review, and I just wanted to change it up and do something for me. Not that that one wasn't, because that's an awesome album, but in this case I was flipping through and I came through this. This is Pink Floyd, A Momentary Lapse of Reason. And I had it in my collection for, I don't know, a couple of years, I guess. But I forgot that I owned it. In fact, I listened to it once, again, right after I bought it. I had a different Phono preamp at the time, and I don't know, it didn't click with me at that time. So last Friday when I put it on, not only did it click, I was just going to go in and listen to the first record. There's two of them here, as it's 45 RPM. I was just going to listen to the first two sides and then switch on to something else because I had the late afternoon, evening to myself. Both the kids were gone and my wife was out shopping or something for the afternoon, so I had some time. And I said, all right, I'll grab this, I'll put it on, and then I'll find something else to listen to after the first record. Well, this thing sucked me in and forced me to play the second record. That was my evening. I thoroughly enjoyed this thing. I was kind of mesmerized for a while. Forgot how much I enjoyed this album, which kind of brings me back to the beginning of it all. So it's summer, fall of 1987, and I'm in the Air Force at this time. Just graduated from high school. I'm in the Air Force, way up in upstate Maine. And I remember buying a Momentary Lapse of Reason on cassette. Wore that sucker out. Of course, since I'm 18 and away from home for the first time, but close enough to home, where I would literally get in my 1985 Volkswagen Jetta with the Blaupunkt stereo system, where this cassette went in, and I would take the 7-hour trip home for the weekend to hang out with my friends, and then take the 7-hour trip back to work on a Sunday night to get back for Monday morning. And I would do that, crazily enough, I probably did that almost every other weekend for a good 6 months. Stupid, certainly wouldn't do that now, but got a lot of driving miles with this record. So I remember A Momentary Lapse of Reason pretty well. It was one of my go-to cassettes in the car, and certainly when you're on that long drive on Route 95 coming from northern Maine down south, not a lot to see. I would literally forget an hour at a time of driving in that car and listening to this. So that's where I started with this record. And again, going back a couple years ago, I was at Newbury Comics, I think, and I picked this thing up, not really knowing what it was. I'm just thinking, oh yeah, it's Momentary Lapse of Reason. Let's go buy it, add to the Pink Floyd collection. Listened to it at that time on a different Phono preamp. Wasn't really digging it. It didn't blow me away or anything. So put it back into the on the shelf, and I hadn't picked it up again until last Friday. And I got to tell you, I am so glad that I did, because now on this new preamp that I got that we've discussed before, right? It's a Pro-Ject 2-box S2 Phono preamp, and that's going in, and it's getting the signal from a very modest record player, which is an Audio-Technica LP120, and it's going through the Rotel A11 Tribute amp out these Wharfdale Denton 85th generation speakers. Whew, okay. That's the platform in which this is going through. So let's just go through this album, a little bit of background before we get into how it sounds and the rest of the stuff, okay? So, as I mentioned, the first studio album was in 1987, and it was the 13th studio album by Pink Floyd. It was released in the UK on September 7th, 1987 on EMI. And the next day, it was released in the United States, so that would have been September 8th, 1987 on Columbia Records. And it was primarily recorded at David Gilmour's converted houseboat, Astoria. As mentioned earlier, I think, this was the first Pink Floyd album to not have Roger Waters on it. If you remember back in those days, the Final Cut being the last album that the original Pink Floyd members were participating on. In fact, Richard Wright got fired on that album, the keyboard player. He does show up on this record, but as a session musician. And we'll talk about a little bit more of that in a few minutes. So yeah, it came out in 1987, and this really kicked off the whole Pink Floyd resurgence again. They went on a worldwide tour. I remember seeing that on MTV or something to that effect. And it finally got fans back into the seats because both Gilmour and Roger Waters touring without the Pink Floyd name, their audiences were starting to dwindle. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel, thank you very much. I appreciate it. If you are a repeat offender and have come here multiple times, oh, even better. Thank you very much. If you'd like to support the channel, please feel free and hit that like button. That would help me a lot. And if you want to hit the subscribe button, it's free. That would really help boost this channel up. Thank you very much, and now back to the program. So, back to this album here. So this particular album, let me say first, the packaging is really good. This is that soft touch, thick cardboard, gatefold style, opens up, really nice, right? Comes with a 24-page book, I think, in here. This is pretty nice. Here's the cover right there, and inside it's got pretty much all the information you need. Let me just remind everybody what these guys looked like at the time. Right there. Still kind of young, huh? Still kind of young. Certainly younger than I am now. But yeah, it's got a page for every one of the songs with the lyrics on really high quality paper. This is I don't normally fall for this stuff, but this is pretty nice. Pretty nice quality anyway. As you'll notice, it also comes with an alternative cover from the original one. And in the booklet, it actually comes and shows you a couple other cover ideas that they had at the time. So as far as the packaging goes, it's second to none, frankly. You know, this is not a it's not a mobile fidelity record. It is not a analog productions record. Therefore, you know, I wasn't thinking much of the packaging, but packaging in this is really, really good. So for whatever that's worth. The other thing I'll say on here, it says Pink Floyd, A Momentary Lapse of Reason, remixed and updated. Right? Now what I learned is that, and I'm going to quote this so I don't get it wrong. This was written on the, in the book on the inside, and I'll try and put some pictures up while I'm saying this because you don't need to see this face. It says, in December of 2019, A Momentary Lapse of Reason was reissued again as part of the Later Years box set. It was updated and remixed by Gilmour and Jackson with restored contributions from Wright and newly recorded drum tracks from Mason to restore the creative balance between the three Pink Floyd members. So, yeah, they went back and actually got Richard Wright's older recordings and put back into this. They took a little bit of that 80s reverb out, which was a good thing. Yes, you can have too much reverb. And then they actually put in some new drum tracks from Dave Mason, no, not Dave Mason, from Nick Mason, if I got that right. Not only a reissue, but it sounds like they folded in some overdubs as well. Anyway, so enough about the packaging and the background of this thing. You want to know, how does it sound? So, how does it sound? All right. Well, my initial thoughts on this thing is It's got a nice wide soundstage, wide and deep. It's a little bit different than what I had been listening to. Again, I was coming off the Crosby, Stills, and Nash, where the soundstage was just huge, right? From ceiling to floor and beyond. This thing almost had like that movie theater type of approach, where it was letterbox, right? You know, when you go from watching something in 1080p and then you watch another movie and it comes off with letterbox. That's the feeling I got from the soundstage, where you kind of step back a little bit. It wasn't quite as immediate as the Crosby, Stills, and Nash soundstage was. This one was, you are moved back a little bit further away from the soundstage, but the soundstage is long and wide and it's deep. So it comes out to about 5 feet on either side of the speakers, this being the left speaker, right? So it's coming out of the wall over here, and I mentioned earlier, it's pushing 20 feet right now of a soundstage. My speakers are 10.5 feet apart. I sit over there 10.5 feet away, and the soundstage is seemingly coming from 20 feet. The height on this thing, it doesn't go up as high as 5 feet. It hangs out around 3.5 to 4 feet for the majority of the record. This record produces really, really good dynamic range, meaning the quiet parts are dead quiet and the snare pops, and when they want it to be loud, it gets loud. I'll go back and also, say that, yeah, not a lot of surface noise. Like I said earlier, I listened to it once, maybe a year and a half ago, and then I listened to it 3 more times in the last couple days. And I wasn't getting any ridiculous pops or anything like that. I did clean it before I listened to it. Yes, great dynamic range in the soundstage. It's a very engaging record. It forces you to sit and listen. And I listened to the majority of this with my eyes closed, picking up all the nuances and intricacies of the soundstage, because frankly, there's a lot of stuff going on this record, a lot of stuff. So yeah, you can keep coming back for more and still hear stuff for the first time, which is pretty cool. Like I said earlier, I was going to listen to just the first side, or rather the first record, once and move on. I didn't. It forced me to listen to the entire album, and then forced me to listen to it a couple more times over the last few days. So, great imaging, great holographic imaging. Instruments are locked into place. Center image is very, very secure. No complaints whatsoever from the soundstage. Once again, remember, this is a 45 RPM record as well. Side 1 is 3 songs. It's Signs of Life, Learning to Fly, and The Dogs of War. Signs of Life starts with that rowboat that you're hearing with the oars in the water and the paddling. And yeah, it's very engaging. It again, forced me to sit up and listen, close my eyes, and get as much as I can out of this sense, right? So as the rowboat starts, you start to get some ambiance with some keyboards and some drums, and then the rest of the instruments flow in. The notes I put here is everything is very sharp and very crispy. Everything is high def. Again, very, very engaging from the moment you put the needle down. Soundstage big and wide. The bass is boomy without not being obnoxious, but the bass is good. And the highs are high and sparkly, just like we like, right? So as we run from Signs of Life, we go right into Learning to Fly, right? One of the singles that came off the album that you probably remember. And it's a great intro coming from Signs of Life, because right away, well, you know how Learning to Fly starts, and it jogs you quite forcibly from the peaceful ending of Signs of Life, and then Learn to Fly kicks in. I put great image, full sound. It's big, it's boomy. I started smiling. It was a good one. Crisp, defined percussion. Not only this song, but the rest of the album, they really enjoy the panning effect. you're getting percussion popping all over the place. And again, from a holographic image perspective, it's really cool. The other thing I put on here is that Gilmour's voice it's never sounded better. And I could say that throughout the rest of this album. I'm wondering if they recorded him a little bit differently, or if he was just that much more confident in his abilities. I don't know. But from a vocal perspective, Gilmour sounds great on this album, and he certainly does on this song right here. All right, so as you're coming out of learning to fly, they're going to know how clean or how good your vinyl is, because it gets dead quiet for a period of time until you start hearing that dog growl. It's powerful. It's a really cool sensation. It certainly didn't sound like that in the 1985 Volkswagen Jetta that I had with the Blaupunkt stereo. Oh no, it didn't sound like that at all. It's a really powerful song with a lot going on, as is the rest of this album. There's a lot going on, so you really have to sit back and listen to it if you want to pick out all the intricacies. In fact, what's really cool about that is I listened to it in full 3 times over the last 4 or 5 days, and I was picking out new stuff every time I was listening to it, and that's great. So back to the Dogs of War, powerful, great solo. You're getting that classic David Gilmour tone. If you didn't know this was a Pink Floyd album, you'd certainly know David Gilmour was playing lead on this. Sounds great. As his solo fades out, something that I'm not accustomed to hearing too much on a Pink Floyd album is the saxophone. Sax came in, did a really tasteful solo right after that. Sounds great. Forgot how much I liked this album, or this song rather, and it was a joy to listen to again. So that ends side 1. Okay, so then you go up and you flip it to side 2, and on side 2 you have One Slip and On the Turning Away. So One Slip starts with a bunch of electronic beeps and noises, and again, from all over the soundstage. So immediately you're kind of looking all around, and I'd have to say countless times I thought somebody was coming in the door here because I heard something that I didn't hear before. So yeah, really, really well recorded album. One Slip, comes from those electronic beeps into drums, and then really you feel a lot of presence of air or the space in the room, because at least in the beginning of the song, you don't have a ton of instrumentation going on, but you do feel the room just as big in the soundstage as if all the instruments were playing. What I put here is the percussion and bass provided a really wide ambiance. I guess chalk that up to also feeling the space in the room, and yeah, it did feel really, really big. That goes right into another single I think that was on this album called On the Turning Away. You probably recognize that song as well. The vocals are right there and locked. Gilmour sounds awesome. Really strong, locked center image vocals. I put down here lots of texture, trying to describe something you're hearing with visual cues is, it's a stretch, right? But if you could follow me for a second, so a lot of textures, right? You're hearing the soft and you're hearing the sharp-edged instrumentation at the same time. So you're hearing the keyboards, the acoustics, acoustic guitar, electric guitar, bass, etc. And you're getting, I guess, opposites attract or something to that effect. You're getting a lot of different textures in this song. You've got a great David Gilmour solo in here, and I would put that solo up against any of his most well-known solos throughout the Pink Floyd canon. Classic David Gilmour solo here. The tonality is fantastic. I put the notes here. The Strat was cooking. C-O-O-K''N. Cooking. All right, so that takes us off of the first record. You take that off, you put on the second record, and we go to side 3. Yet Another Movie is the name of this song, and I put the notes here. It says big industrial sounding opening. It's got deep bass, clear sparkly trebles. It's filling the room. It's giving your ears the opportunity to hear the edges of the possibilities of what this song can be, right? From the deep bass to the high treble. I put classic Gilmour tones. I've said that a couple times here. And I guess that's one of the biggest things I'll take away from this record is Pink Floyd was back, and David Gilmour not only had all his old tonality in there, right? I mean, think of the different areas or the different time frames of Pink Floyd and the rig he was using. Not only did you get all the old tones, but you got some new ones too. Oh, I'll explain that a little bit later as we get into the last song on the album. But back to Yet Another Movie. I really like the imaging on this one. There's a lot going on, and it was really fun to just kick back and listen to everything. Frankly, it was this song that made me listen to it another 2 more times. I was surprised by this one. Really, really good song. And that goes into, it ends with Round and Around, instrumental, which goes right into the New Machine Part 1. New Machine Part 1 is a lot of air and space. It's Gilmour's vocals with either a synthesizer or some type of effect he's putting on his guitar. Yeah, pretty cool. And that rolls right into the 9th song on the album, which is called Terminal Frost. And I put this down here. You've got smooth and rough instrumentation. I don't know, maybe I think Jimmy Page of Zeppelin, I think he said something to the effect of, you know, trying to get that dynamic of light and shade. I don't know, maybe I'm getting it mixed up, but here, audibly hearing the different textures of opposites, where you're getting some really smooth sounds that you're getting jarred by, frankly, by the aggressiveness of some of the other sounds that the other instruments are making. A really nice combination. And that goes right into, you know, Terminal Frost ends with New Machine Part 2, which was really just a same as the first part. Not much different. Think of it really as just a new machine, parts 1 and 2 getting split by an instrumental. Anyway, really, really nice. So that ends that side. And then you flip it over for the last time, and the entire 4th side of this album is the song Sorrow. And unfortunately, it's probably the song that I listened to the least. Probably because it was just a pain in the butt and it took up the whole side. But here, man, so Sorrow, the soundstage is as big as anyone on this record. And what I put in the notes here is just Gilmour is throwing everything at you. Gilmour is throwing all the guitar tones at you. It's an epic song, and I really, can't articulate any more than that. One of the best listens on the entire album, and it really puts an exclamation point on this album that it's this album doesn't get the credit that it should. And perhaps the reason why I like it so much is now with this this reissued and remixed version, it takes out some of that overabundance of 1980s reverb and some other things. This was a thoroughly enjoyable record to listen to, period, hands down. Right after this, I changed it up. I put on, what other album did I put on? I put on, I put on Wish You Were Here, right? And that was a great listen. But I'll tell you this, the soundstage on Wish You Were Here was not as big as it is on this. This is a little gem. I mean, if you can find this, and I'll put a link to from the Discogs, they don't even have this 45 RPM or any vinyl, frankly, on Pink Floyd's website any longer. I couldn't find it. They've got a CD in which you can purchase. But if you want this vinyl edition, you probably have to go to Discogs or try to find it at your local record store. I'll check to see if Amazon has it. I don't think they do, but if they do, I'll put it in a link below, and I'll put a picture of that as well. So I'll leave you with this. Do yourself a favor. Go out there, find a Momentary Lapse of Reason vinyl, 45 RPM, put it on, spend the next 45 minutes to an hour with a cup of green tea, some coffee, your favorite beverage, whatever it is, and give yourself some time. Because if not now, when? When are you going to do it? So you've got to make some time. And even on a modest hi-fi system like we have here at the Modest Audiophile, you're going to get a killer listening experience. That's it. So thanks for hanging around. Hope to see you soon in the next one. And maybe I'll get to the next one that I want it to be the next one without interrupting myself with a surprise. Take care, everybody. Bye.